Thank you so very much, Gulalai Ismail, for having a conversation with me. So, well, my first question is, perhaps this is a question that many people ask. How you escaped Pakistan? How you made your way to the United States? Because for a while you were the most wanted person in Pakistan, and the military forces in Pakistan were looking for you almost everywhere. And yet you are in the United States.
Yeah, thank you. I never wanted to leave Pakistan, though I was placed on exit control list in 2018. And the state authorities in Pakistan, they had been attempting to silence me, to intimidate me using different tactics. Like my passport was, at one point, my passport was confiscated. The court, even the court had already ordered to remove my name from exit control list, but the authorities did not implement the decision. And I was made a missing person once in February 2018 when I was protesting against the murder of PTM activist Arman Looney. I was made a missing for 40 hours. So there had been several attempts to intimidate me. I was threatened directly. My father was threatened directly by the ISI that if I do not stop supporting PTM, then I will be killed. But I never wanted to leave Pakistan. I did not want to leave my homeland because I felt I can contribute much more if I am staying there. I can raise my voice better. But then there came a point where it was just impossible to stay there, be safe, and also raise voice, also continue raising voice for the issue. So it was about, being, my voice, whether I would be able to keep on voicing the issue if I stay there. So that is why my friends and I decided that it's time to leave Pakistan, and though it was extremely difficult because of the situation that was created, the crisis that was created around me, but my friends helped me and I was able to leave Pakistan and arrive in the US. I had US visa already, so it was not a big matter to land in the US.
Okay, you had your US visa, but you mentioned somewhere else that you did not use any airport getting out from Pakistan.
I used an airport to enter the US.
That's for sure.
So, yeah. My friends went all around the country and they did very well research. And it was from that research that we found out that how difficult it has been. It has been made difficult because the surveillance and security had been increased almost at all the exit points from Pakistan. But my work has gained me some really good friends within the country. I have got some really good friends, and they were able to find a way for me to get out of Pakistan.
Would you like to name that country?
I chose. I said Pakistan. Within Pakistan, within Pakistan, I have good friends who helped me get out. But I have avoided to go into much details of how actually, of how I was able to get out of Pakistan, because people who helped me, they live in that country. Their lives, their families are. It's not easy for them, and they don't want to, and it won't be possible for them to leave the country.
My question is that, so you have been advocating for women's rights in Pakistan, for human rights in Pakistan, almost for 15, 16 years now, right?
Yeah.
So you started when you were only 16 in school, right? Well, why now? Why in 2018 or in 2019 you feel that your life is in danger in Pakistan?
There are different reasons for it. One, we have to understand that gradually Pakistan is becoming a much more darker place. It is becoming a bigger prison. It has become a much bigger prison for voices of dissent. It was never this difficult, but it was always difficult for Pakistan as a country, was always difficult for voices of dissent, for people who criticized the Pakistan military, for people who were speaking about civil supremacy, and people who were raising questions of nations, for example, Pashtuns, Baloch, Sindhis, like the phenomena of becoming abducted, the phenomena of torture, in custody torture. It was very common for especially for people who were working on the question of democracy and question of nations. But it has now become much more difficult. It has become now the aggression against dissidents is very naked. It's extremely naked aggression, and now there is no tolerance in the state authorities to even let people speak out their grievances. So, what has, if I see, I have been an activist. Even 15 years ago, I had been an activist, and even now I'm an activist. But now Pakistan state authorities have reached to a point where they are not willing to let people even share their grievances, not even speak out. Another thing which has changed is that, when I started working on, I started at a very young age, I started working on human rights, and there has been, it was never all roses. It was I had faced, even then I had faced a lot of challenges. I faced challenges from the community as well, because I was working in one of the most difficult areas of the country. I was speaking about women's freedoms, I was speaking about women's rights, I was speaking about young women's right to education, right to employment, right to take part in politics, right to go for a vote. And they were never easily and happily accepted, all these discussions. But for example, for the first time I was attacked, it was 2014 when for the first time I was attacked.
The military forces in Pakistan have been, or the officials in Pakistan have been very cautious in terms of speaking about your case. But they have accused you of treason and spreading divisive ideas and speeches around Pakistan. Or what do you say to that accusation?
Pakistan authorities have been very, they have been very cautious about speaking about the whole movement. And the only time they speak about PTM, they speak about us negatively. They speak about us as being traitors. The attempt, before even Pakistan was made, and there was like British, we were colonized by British. The Britishers, the colonizers, would portray any movement of resistance as as traitors. And the same policy has been, what we see, that Pakistan has used the same policy, that any movement for peace, any movement for human rights, it is being labeled as traitors. So every time the authorities have spoken about us, they have threatened us. Whenever they would speak to us, they would speak in the language of threats, or they would label us as traitor. On the last press conference, which was, it was on 29th April 2019, when the spokesperson of Pakistan Army did a press conference, he gave a very direct threat to us. He said, time is up for us. He threatened us that serious actions will be taken against us. And after that, we saw that a brutal crackdown started against all of us. I was the first one who was booked in cases of terrorism. I was accused of terrorism. I was accused of treason, sedition. I was accused of promoting enmity between ethnic groups in Pakistan. I was accused of financial terrorism. There was a case made against me, and I was accused that I have taken maybe billions of dollars from India, and I have been giving it to terrorist organizations in Pakistan. I have been working on peace building, and my peace work has been labeled as terrorism by Pakistan state authorities. So every time, that's right, every time they speak about us, they speak in language of oppression, aggression, and threats.
Why do you think that the military forces in Pakistan are after you personally? Do you think that you really challenge their ideas and their power? If that's the only reason that you think that they are looking after you and just want to limit your freedom, your power? They
are afraid of strong women. I think they are after me because they cannot, it's difficult to, they are afraid of strong women. When women raise questions on them, because they know that when Pashtun women are united and when Pashtun women are speaking out, it means something. So you mentioned that when a Pashtun woman speaks out, that means something for the Pakistani authorities. What does it mean? What does it mean to the Pakistani officials or military forces?
because you come from a Pashtun family, you are advocating for Pashtuns' rights in Pakistan and in Afghanistan. What is that scares the Pakistani officials about Pashtun women?
First of all, if only Pashtun men are coming out and leading a movement, it means that it is not a national movement. It is not a collective movement, because if half of the population is not part of the movement, then you cannot call it a movement which represents everyone. It will mean it is a movement which only represents men. So when we women are with the movement and very vocally strongly with the movement, it means that it is a collective movement which is representing everyone in the nation, in the Pashtun nation, number one. Number two, it is very easy for Pakistan state authorities to discredit the whole movement if there are no progressive women, or if there are no women part of the movement. It would have been so easy for Pakistan to call us, even now they sometimes call us in their propaganda videos, that it is a political wing of Taliban. Because the Pakistan military, it has stereotyped and dehumanized Pashtuns, especially Pashtuns of the tribal areas. They have been dehumanized and they have been stereotyped as terrorists. So the way they look, their looks, their language, they had been made famous on the mainstream media as the outlook of a terrorist. So when only the tribals, the tribal men come out, it is so easy for Pakistani media and Pakistani authorities to label the whole movement as Taliban. But when women are there, they cannot discredit the movement, because the world can see. And when women like me, who are already before the movement, the world knew me for past 15 years. They knew me and they respected me for the work I was doing on human rights. So when human rights activists, when civil society, when it stands with the movement, the international community listens to the movement. The international community know that yes, this is a credible movement. Whatever they are saying is credible, because they know the faces who are supporting the movement. They know the faces who are showing solidarity.
Yeah. Well, the next question that I have is that, in your opinion, what is the vision of Pakistani officials about Pakistani Pashtuns in the long term, in the short term? So what do you think that when Pakistani officials make a decision in Islamabad or wherever, whether it's in generals at the intelligence services or in other part of the government, what they want to do with Pakistani Pashtuns? They want to keep them out of school, keep them out of education, universities. What is their vision towards Pashtuns in Pakistan?
Their vision is that Pashtuns are fodder of their war economy, of their war policy, pro-war policies. They are fodder. They are. Their vision is that Pashtuns will be kept uneducated, out of school. They would be kept conservative, radicalized, easy to be recruited in the militant organizations, so that they can be used easily in the proxy wars of Pakistan. If Pakistan needs Taliban in Afghanistan, they would be easily recruit Pashtuns. If they need to fight in Kashmir, they would. If they need to send Mujahideen, Taliban to Kashmir, they would easily train Pashtun and send them to Kashmir or to any other part of the world. So the Pakistani vision is to use the Pashtun area as a buffer zone. To use at the buffer zone, to keep it a very unruly, ungovernable area, to keep really bad governance in it, to deprive people of their basic rights. For example, if you look at the poverty statistics in Pakistan, in whole Pakistan, 40% people live in poverty. 40% people, but only in the erstwhile tribal areas, 74% people live in poverty. The education, if you look at the education statistics, the literacy rate is 33%. And for women, the literacy rate is less than 10% even. So, the whole area has been kept a buffer zone. The vision is to have some kind of people who can be easily used for the for the war as
proxy wars, okay.
And also, Pashtuns have been radicalized. Islamic radicalization has been used against Pashtuns. The whole community has been militarized and radicalized so that they cannot go back and claim their Pashtun national identity. Religious extremism has been imposed on Pashtun to counter Pashtun nationalism.
Well, the Pakistani officials have been insisting that a stable Pakistan is of course beneficial for the entire people of Pakistan, for the state, for the ordinary people. And they want education for Pakistani people, they want peace, and they are themselves the victim of terrorism. They have been talking about this over and over and over again. What do you think? What is wrong here? What people should believe? Your narrative or Pakistani government's narrative?
Yeah. If Pakistan, means people of Pakistan, then yes, we are victims of terrorism. If Pakistan means people of Pakistan. But if Pakistan means Pakistan Army, then Pakistan Army is, especially the senior officers of Pakistan Army, they are not victims of terrorism.
Let me ask you another question, Gulalai Ismail. What is your vision for Pakistani Pashtuns in the long term? Do you want independent country for Pashtuns in Pakistan, and also Pashtuns who live in Afghanistan? Do you want a Pakistan, a free Pakistan that everyone has their share, Pashtuns, Baluch, other ethnicities? Do you want, what is your vision in the long term for Pakistani Pashtuns?
Self-determination is a right of every nation, and it's right of the people. So it's really up to the people, up to the larger number of people on what they want.
What's your personal opinion?
That is my personal opinion, and also that is not just my personal opinion, but that is also, as a movement, we believe that every nation has a right to self-determination. However, the vision of Pashtun Tahfiz movement is to be able to get the constitutional rights for the Pashtuns in Pakistan under the constitutional framework of Pakistan. For example, the constitutional framework of Pakistan gives people the right to free and fair trial. So, now we are asking for the right which has been mentioned in the constitution, that all citizens have the right to free and fair trial. Now we are asking for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which would investigate the war crimes committed against Pashtuns. We need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission as per international standards. It was a war. It cannot be what happened in the Pashtun belt and what is happening in the Pashtun belt. It cannot be dismissed as a law and security situation. It cannot be as a law and order situation. It cannot be dismissed only as a law and disorder situation. It was a war. War crimes have been committed. And it's not only that I am saying it. There is a press conference of the spokesperson of Pakistan military who had said in his press conference that everything is fair in love and war. And whatever happened in the Pashtun belt was part of war. So it was fair. And what we are saying that no, not everything is fair in war. Even if there is a war, there are international laws for it, and even the war has to be fought under that international laws. So that is why we are demanding a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate the war crimes committed against Pashtuns, and then to move towards, to hold those responsible, to hold them accountable, and then to move towards a reconciliation. We also believe that in Pakistan, all nations, they should have control over their own resources, and they should have control over their own decision making. Now we do not have control over our own resources. For example, the moment FATA was merged in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, an ordinance, a law was passed without consulting the locals, without consulting tribal people, without consulting Pashtuns, without consulting the elected representatives of Pashtuns. A law was passed which said that now all the minerals in the ex-tribal areas, they belong to the government. So, we see it that our resources have been taken away from us. We do not have control over our own resources. We do not control our own political decision making. We want to live in a country where we are autonomous, where our national identity is not distorted. Now, Pashtun national identity has been distorted. It has been distorted. It has been given it has been given the militarized image, and it has been radicalized. and we want our own indigenous national identity to be restored. We want to be autonomous. We want our constitutional rights to be respected, and we also think that we need a social contract, a constitution which does not, we are not a minority in Pakistan, and we shall not be treated as an ethnic minority in Pakistan. We want equal rights.
Let me ask you another question, Gulalai Ismail. You have traveled to Afghanistan several times. You work with Pashtuns in Afghanistan and Pakistan. What do you want for Afghanistan's Pashtuns?
See, I believe that peace for Pashtuns in Pakistan is linked with peace for Pashtuns in Afghanistan. If Kandahar is burning, if Laghman is burning, Peshawar will burn too. It is just not possible to have peace to have conflict or war in Afghanistan and peace in Pakistan. It is linked with each other. I also think, and what I have witnessed, is that Pashtuns in Pakistan and Afghanistan have become victims of the very same policies. Pashtuns across the Durand Line have been radicalized. They have been used as fodder in the war. Both across the border line, they have seen displacement, they have seen destruction, they have been deprived of their basic rights. So we have to fight this battle together, this battle for peace together, and that is why I have been working with Afghans as well across the Durand Line. I have been working with them as well on peace building, especially on building alternative narratives of non-violence and pluralism. We have worked with partner organizations, different partner organizations in Afghanistan. One was to educate young people on non-violence, narrative of non-violence, and how we can use non-violent resistance to ask for our rights. And then I have also worked with women in Afghanistan, because women in Pashtun women and women of Afghanistan both have been affected by the degree of effect has been different, but we both have been affected by Talibanization, militarization.
When was the last time you traveled to Afghanistan?
The last time I traveled, it was 2017. It was, I don't remember the month, but it was summer of 2017.
All right. Gulalai Ismail, do you recognize Durand Line?
I think it is the key time that all Pashtun leaders across the Durand Line, they come together and to have discussions around Durand Line and to see that what future they want, and not just the elders. I think it's the time that elders and the younger leaders across the border, they shall come together and they shall discuss it. There should be a dialogue about it. We have been, this is such a crucial issue which has been, which has not been let even discuss. I think now the
so you want a jirga, obviously, for this,
jirga
to make a decision.
Jirga on very new lines in which women, young people and everyone is part of the jirga, and they shall have a discussion about it, and there shall be a dialogue about it.
Well,
we shall know about our history. We Pashtuns have been kept deprived of the knowledge of our own history. So many young people because I'm associated with Pashtun Tahfuz movement, because I'm associated with human rights.
Right.
So that is why I have knowledge about it and I have an awareness about it. But most of our young people, they even don't have an idea about what the Durand Line is, what the history is, and the state have been they have created enmity among Pashtuns on the across the border line, and we are one people. We are same people. We are same, like ethnically we are same, genetically we are same people, nationally we are same people. So, but the state policies have been, the policies have been shaped to fuel enmity among us.
Sure, Gulalai. So the Pakistani government position on Durand Line is clear. So they recognize that, they say it's done, it's over, so we recognize this border.
I don't think that it's done and it's over.
Okay, that means your position that, so your explanation is just you don't recognize that.
I think it's not done and it's not over. It's because because it's not Pakistan who has to decide if it's done and over. It's people who have to decide if it's
Let me
done
ask you this question then. Do you think it is realistic that Pashtun in Afghanistan and in Pakistan get together as a one nation? Is that something that you're talking, or no? Or like Pakistani Pashtuns are Pakistani, they have their national interest with Pakistan, whatever is in the interest of Pakistan, and Pashtuns in Afghanistan should follow whatever is in interest in the national interest of Afghanistan.
See, geographies are not static. See, geographies and nation building is not static. It's always a few. It keeps on changing. And before 1971, Bengal was part of Pakistan. In 1971, Bengal gets separated and it became a different country. Interests changes with time. And Pashtuns, they are one nation. And Durand Line is an artificial line drawn on the bodies of Pashtuns to divide us, and as long as it is like a cut on us, and it's bleeding, so we need to heal this wound. And I think that at now, the least which shall be done is that borders shall be opened. There shall be no border. Pashtuns across this artificial border, this artificial line shall be removed. Pashtuns shall be able to move freely, and not just move freely and meet their relatives. The visa policy, I believe that there shall be no visa policy. Pashtuns from Afghanistan shall be, they shall be let come freely without visa to Pakistan to meet their Pashtun relatives.
Only Pashtuns or the entire, everyone from Afghanistan?
When it comes to the Durand Line, and at least to the Pashtuns, I think Pashtuns shall be led, because across the Durand Line there are Pashtuns families, people have relatives. Like, I do not have a blood relative in Pakistan, but I know that half of the Waziristan, I know that half of them have, but not even half of them, all of them have relatives across the border.
Let me ask you this question,
when it comes to the border with Balochistan, people
Right.
have relatives. So people who have relatives, they shall be let move without visa. There shall be economic ties. Every other day we listen that Torkham border has been blocked. The Spin Boldak border has been blocked for transportation, and who pays the economic cost? Pashtuns are the one whose economy get worst when the borders are closed and when they are not let use a transportation route. So we need economic ties. We need improved economic policies, so that Pashtuns can easily, people across the border line, they can easily do their business. There shall be social ties. As I said, people have relatives. They shall be let travel across the border without any visa. There shall be academic exchanges. There shall be universities. There shall be, I believe that Pashtuns from Pakistan shall be easily able to go to Afghanistan and study in universities. Pashtuns Afghans shall be easily able to come to Pakistan and study in universities here. There shall be academic exchanges. Research shall be done together. So we need social, economic.
Right.
We need much more better ties with each other. And this is the least that shall be done.
Yeah, I understand your point. So it is clear that you say that Pashtuns should be free to travel between Pakistan and Afghanistan without any passport. That's your point. But how about other Afghans, other Pakistanis? So do you recognize a free border only for Pashtuns or for all Afghans?
Well, I think that the whole world shall be border free. I believe that.
Let's talk about Pakistan and Afghanistan now.
I think borders are cruel. I believe all borders are cruel. They are anti-human, and the whole world shall be border free. Everyone shall be able to travel around. But when it comes to Pakistan and Afghanistan, because we are in the same region, we may not be able to change the whole world together.
Sure.
The whole world. But at least when it comes to Pakistan and Afghanistan shall become. I think it's time that Pakistan recognize Afghanistan as a sovereign country. It respects it as a sovereign country. So the Pakistan needs to change its Afghan policy.
Well, if Pakistan does what you say, and then it requires a passport, because an independent nation's citizens will travel to another country.
In European Union countries recognize each others as independent countries, but even then people can travel without visa requirements. Even then they're able to travel. They can do trade without, there are certain friendly trade policies. There is a single market in the European Union. There is single market. So if Europeans can come together, even having independent countries, they can travel without visas, without passports, and they can have a single market. Why can't we have a single market in the South Asia?
Let me ask you another question. You come from a Pashtun family. You come from a very conservative province in Pakistan. I think you are the right person to talk about Pashtun societies and families in terms of educating their girls and supporting schools and so on and so forth. Hundreds, thousands of Pashtun kids, especially girls in Pakistan and Afghanistan, cannot go to school. What's wrong with Pashtun with these areas? Where that comes from, this problem?
It comes from the state policies. It comes from the priorities of the state, priorities of the country, and how the budget is invested. In Pakistan, the priority of the state is defense. And we have been told, this narrative is fed to the policymakers and to everyone that Pakistan is under threat. Pakistan is under threat from all the countries, and the neighboring countries are making conspiracies against Pakistan to destabilize us. That's why we need to invest more and more money on the defense. So a huge amount of budget, the major chunk of the budget is spent on military, it's spent on defense, and really peanuts are left to be used on development. Peanuts are left to be used on education. And then the way the budget of Pakistan is divided is that though Pakistan is now a federation, but the budget is divided on the on the basis of population. Punjab is the biggest province in Pakistan when it comes to population, so Punjab takes the biggest chunk of the budget. We are only 20% of the Pashtuns are only 20% of the population of Pakistan, so we get a smaller chunk of the budget. So first a big chunk is gone into defense, and then because the budget is distributed on the basis of population, we get a smaller chunk of budget, and then a really small amount of it is then spent on health, a small amount is spent on education. Like in the previous years, we have seen that the development budget, for example, like the budget which was supposed to be spent on building new schools, new constructions, and making school accessible, like that was not spent. So the state needs to change its priorities. Even the provincial governments need to change its priorities, and it needs to spend it needs to spend on education, and not just on primary education, because when it comes to literacy, the way the data is collected, like you will be considered literate if you can just write your name, and if you can read, you will be considered illiterate. But just that primary literacy will not give you anything. You really need to do college education to be able to use your skills to develop yourself. So education is not a priority. And then conflict, what happened with the Pashtun areas is that the 4 decades of conflict has militarized and destroyed the whole Pashtun region. The state policies for Pashtun regions were brutal. As I said, that in 1970s and in 1980s, thousands of madrasas were built in the Pashtun regions. Why that money was not used for making schools, for making hospitals? Why the government was making thousands of madrasa in the tribal areas, but they were not spending that same amount of money to build schools and to build hospitals? So it was a state policy to radicalize Pashtuns, to make them conservative, to make them extremist, so that they can be used as proxies.
Gulalai, if that's the state policy, is trying to obviously make Pashtuns hate school or don't like school or whatever, why you became an educated girl? You come from the same tribe, I mean from the same area, from a very conservative state. Why those state policies didn't affect your life?
Well, there are a number of Pashtuns who have been fighting against the oppressive policies of the state. They have been questioning it. My father is among one of those. There are many Pashtuns who do recognize the importance of education for girls, and Malala Yousafzai is Pashtun girl, and her father recognized the importance of education. My father was just like Ziauddin. My father also recognized that it is really important for his daughters to get educated. So he invested in our education and invested in my development, in my education, so that I can speak up for myself, but I can also speak up for my community. And this is the thing about women. When a woman gets empowered, when a man gets empowered, a man gets empowered. But when a woman gets empowered, her whole family and her whole community empowers, because she changes her neighborhood, her community, and her village.
Sure. Speaking of Malala Yousafzai, so you both come from the same province, right? And you work together. I think she was among one of the trainees at your program, right? Tell us about that. How you help her, or what was going on? What is your relationship with Malala from the past and now?
Malala was like a sister in the past and is like a sister even now. She is like a sister. So as I said, I was running Aware Girls in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan, working with young women and girls. So I used to organize leadership training for girls who wanted to learn about human rights, who wanted to be leaders in the community, who wanted to speak up for their rights. So I used to organize trainings with young women and girls. Malala Yousafzai was one of the trainees of the organization. Malala took part in our campaign on 16 days of activism against violence against women. So she took part in that campaign, and it was this December. I don't remember. It was the year before she was attacked. That we were celebrating a day, calling it Wall of Resistance against domestic abuse, and we also brought in Malala Yousafzai, and she took part in that program and in different other programs. Next year she was attacked, and things changed, and then Malala became a bigger icon, a bigger international hero. And once Malala started Malala Fund, and she also started working in Pakistan with they started a program, Gulalai Champions. So as Gulalai Champions, they identified young leaders, and they would support them in the cause of promoting education, secondary education for girls. So I was one of the first Gulalai champion of Malala Fund.
It's very interesting. So what was going on in your village when you were a child? What was going on in your house? Which kind of stories were you listening or hearing at that time? What were you dreaming about at that time?
Well, now you have taken me to my childhood. I had I grew up in Marguz, Sawabi. Marguz is a village of district Sawabi in Pakistan, and I grew up in a very small house. It was made of mud. So I remember my grandmother, every time there would be rain, she would she would make mud in a big pot. She would make mud, and then she would paste it on the walls and on the floor and everything. And my mother she was an entrepreneur. She used to do machine embroidery.
Sure.
So I grew up seeing women of the village, all over the village, women from all over the villages, nearby villages, they would come to our home, and so that my mother could make them embroidery, and they would tell their stories. So from very childhood, I actually heard a lot of stories of women domestic abuse, and I learned from the stories that how in our culture, women who speak up against abuse, they are seen as bad women, and women who stay silent and consider domestic abuse as a private matter, they are considered as a nice and a good woman. That and that would bother me. But if they were my childhood stories, also because my father was an activist, so as a childhood storybook, I read Universal Declaration on Human Rights, Convention on the Rights of Child, and my father had subscribed for us. He had subscription of different newsletters of human rights organizations. So I, from a very childhood, from a very young age, he gave us this perspective on human rights. But I would also say that, you know, when I was a young person, I grew up in a Pakistan. It was Pakistan of 1990s.
Sure.
So I grew up in Pakistan, where it was very common that the militant organizations, they would come to the villages and they would held grand, you know, like huge gatherings, and they would mobilize people for jihad. There would be wall chalking for jihad recruitment. So they on the television, they would tell us that how the whole Muslim Brotherhood is under attack in the world, and the non-Muslims are attacking Muslims in Palestine, in Kashmir, and in Afghanistan, and all. It is our role and it is our duty to go and fight against these apostates. It is so, you know, I grew up with the zeal of jihad, and I also wanted to be you know, to go and be, and you know, and go and get become a martyr in Kashmir. But my father was a peace activist. You know, he was against those policies of the state fueling jihad. But he didn't know that his own children are getting radicalized. And one day he overheard me talking to my mother about the importance of jihad, and he got so worried when he saw that I as his child is also, you know, internalizing all these narratives. So he started working with me after that, and every Friday he would you know, he would teach, he would give us a lesson, give us a lesson on pluralism, on non-violence, on Khudai Khidmatgari, on Bacha Khan, and also on, you know, on politics, secularism, humanism. He taught me humanism when, you know, at a very young age. He taught me about humanism and rationale and logic and looking things from a logical perspective. And it was, and he also makes sure that I meet with people from different political ideologies, different religious backgrounds, so that I become more tolerant.
Sure.
So it was in, you know, in one of those meetings, I remember that he took me to a conference where I met a mother who's and you know, she shared her story, and that was my turning point in life. When I, you know, when this woman, she said that her son used to go to school in the morning, and in the evening he would go to the local madrasa to learn Quran, and there he was brainwashed about jihad. He was told that he does not need his mother's permission to go to jihad. And she said that one day my child got missing and she did not know where her son has gone. And after a few months, she received dead body of the son, and she was told that, oh, congratulations, your son has become a martyr. So in Afghanistan, so she, you know, that was when I realized
turning point for your life.
Yeah, and I realized that no, like that it's not jihad, like that it is not jihad if you are going to kill someone and if you're going to get killed.
Gulalai Ismail, let me ask you this question. If the Pakistani authorities and the military forces in Pakistan are scared out of your point of view, of your activities, which kind of future do you imagine for the state of Pakistan?
If Pakistan is afraid of progressive voices of peace, then the future of Pakistan is going to be pitch dark. It will be pitch dark for the people of Pakistan as well. People will be, you know, like, I don't know what kind of a country Pakistan would make if people do not have their democratic and constitutional right to speak out, to organize, to protest. Pakistan will, I think, economically, it will go down the path. Economically, it will do really bad. I think politically, it will become a much bigger prison for people of Pakistan. It will face international isolation as well. It will make an image of a very, it will make an image of an oppressive state, and life will be hell in Pakistan. And I think even now, you know, people in Pakistan are willing to sell their properties, land, everything, so that they can go out of Pakistan and live in other part of the world. So I think people who matter for Pakistan, they would leave the country. Anyone who has the ability to leave this, who has the opportunity to leave Pakistan, they will leave Pakistan, and it will be left only to the generals of Pakistan.
Sure. So now you are in the United States. Before I ask another questions, your case, you applied for political asylum. Has your case accepted?
It's in process. My asylum case is in process.
In process, hasn't been accepted yet.
It hasn't been accepted or rejected yet. It is in process.
It's in process. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you are here. How? So you left Pakistan. Do you think this affects local women and men who are fighting for women's rights and human rights in Pakistan?
It will make the movement much stronger.
How so?
Because we have the diaspora community has a huge role. It has a huge role because in Pakistan people have been there have been so many legal restrictions on people to mobilize, to organize, and to speak out. In such a moment, diaspora community has an important role to organize here and to engage with the U.S. authorities because the U.S. is the biggest international actor in the world, especially when it comes to Pakistan. It is the biggest funder to Pakistan armed forces, especially for the counter-terrorism operations, the same counter-terrorism operations which were used against us, where grave human rights abuses were committed, but the terrorist organizations were not dismantled. So therefore I believe that it is very important for Pashtun diaspora here for the Pashtun Tafas to organize here as PTM and to engage with the stakeholders regarding the policies they have towards Pakistan, to make sure that the grants which are given to Pakistan, they are made conditional to the human rights situation in Pakistan. Besides this, it's also very important for the diaspora, for the Pashtun diaspora here to be organized and to raise voices of people who raise voices for activists like Idris Khattak, who is still missing. This is role of diaspora community to make sure that his case is alive, his case is heard, reminded to the international community. We have an important role to engage with the United Nations and raise our case in the United Nations as well. We have to make, this is, I think, role of the diaspora community to make sure that the international community is made aware of our case and that international community stands with us, for us.
Gulalai Ismail, thank you so very much for having a conversation with me.
Thank you.